What's up, YouTube? This is Russell from Russell's Reef coming to you with episode 10 of the Waterbox 70.3 build. This week we're going to go over just a couple of issues we've been dealing with. Looks like we beat the Cyano bloom that we had and kicked back the DINO'S as well. We added a couple new fish and the tank's looking really good. We did lose a couple SPS, but all the softies are growing like crazy, so it's a good sign. So let's take a closer look. So if you guys have been following along, you know that I've been battling Cyano and what turned out to be a dino bloom for the last, I would say, 10, maybe 15 days. It started out, I noticed that I was not getting any algae on the front glass, and immediately I knew that was a bad sign. About 3 days went by and the tank was crystal clear, no algae at all, and I was still feeding the same, so I knew that something was about to explode in the tank, and that's exactly what happened. So one day, basically, we just had a giant, what I thought was a cyano bloom, and what likely was mostly a cyano bloom, on pretty much the entire tank was covered. So it started off with just this brown stringy film covering the whole sand bed. And then after that, it started covering the corals and it started bubbling. Once I saw the bubbly snot appearance, I immediately thought that it was dino, which I believe that it probably was not a severe outbreak. I think it was mostly cyanobacteria, but there was definitely dino in there. So all of my zoas were closed. All of my SPS were being pretty much covered and smothered to death. If you've ever had dinos before, you know that they'll attack your SPS. They'll kind of cover the tips of all of them and then make like a snotty bubble. So pretty much any of my SPS that made it through the bloom, they just got their tips just wrecked. So they're still recovering. As you can see, the Setosa is almost back to normal, which is good. And then there's this guy that's getting pretty big. So what I did to battle this was as follows. I read a lot of articles and basically went through a bunch of different sites just to kind of get an idea of the best way to battle the Dinoflagellates. So the main thing that I found in most of the articles were that dino outbreaks were due to a imbalance in your basically nitrates and phosphates. If you have 0 nitrates or 0 phosphates, you're likely to have a problem with the dino. In my case, I had the phosphates as I had been feeding quite a bit, but my nitrates were still unreadable even after feeding for a couple weeks very heavy. So what I did was 3 things. The first thing I did was I started to dose nitrate to my tank. I think a lot of people hear this and they think that's pretty crazy, but believe me, having no nitrates is gonna lead to problems. And I was feeding, like I said, a ton of food. So I dosed a little bit of nitrates, probably enough to raise it 1 point, and then I've been dosing very small amounts like every other day. I'm still reading at about 1 or 2 for my nitrates, which is low, so I'm going to continue to monitor it. And I also added some fish, so hopefully that will help out as well. The second thing I did was I lowered my time for my refugium light. So instead of having that on for 12 hours a night, I cut it down to about 6 hours a night. After I did this, I immediately saw some results. I don't know if it was a combination of the other things that I'd done or the little refugium has that much power. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that that little light down there and that little ball of Cheeto can eat up so much nutrients, but I guess it's possible, but I mean, only time will tell. We'll see. So that was the second thing I did. And then the third thing I did was I dosed some Microbacter 7. So I put some nitrifying bacteria in there. The plan for that was just to get a little bit of diversity in my bacteria in my tank. If you've been following along, you know I cycled my live rock for about 4 months. I didn't use any additives. I just used shrimp. I think this could have also led to my problem a little bit because as I was dropping in the shrimp and they were getting eaten by the bacteria, I wasn't doing anything about the nitrates. So the reading on the nitrates in my live rock cook was like over 100. So the nitrifying bacteria that lives off the nitrates could have, I don't know, multiplied and got out of hand. And then when they got in my tank, there was no more nitrates to eat, so they died off. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. It's definitely complex, but those are the 3 things I did. So my results after I did this was within 1 day of changing the laying schedule in the refugium and adding the bacteria, I saw a drastic decrease in both the cyano that was covering the sand bed and the DINO'S that were bothering my corals and creating those snot bubbles all over everything. By day 2, it was even better, and by day 3, it was completely gone. So it wasn't a like starving die out. It was competition. Something killed the cyanobacteria and the DINO'S because it happened very quickly. And then I also noticed once everything turned around, once I started getting some algae back on the glass, and once the system just got a little dirtier. But I for sure was super surprised that it got kicked back that fast. I had on order a UV sterilizer, just a crummy one that probably wouldn't have worked anyway. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, let's give it a week and then we'll see. And then if it's still there in a week, I'll order it. So luckily I canceled that one. I also ordered the Dr. Tim's sludge remover, and that stuff came, but I never ended up using it. So here we're going to take a look at the sump. As you can see, I cleaned it out a little bit. The Cheeto is staying alive. I'm not sure how fast it's growing, but here we'll take a look at all the different things I use. So here's the nitrate. Like I said, I probably only dosed like 30 mLs over the last, 2 weeks. So nothing crazy, very low doses. The Microbacter 7, I dosed 3 capfuls total, which is enough for, I want to say 50 gallons of water. And then the stuff that I stopped dosing or stopped using, I stopped using the Reef for the whole time. And that was cut out. And then I also stopped the aminos, although I've never really used them. I dosed it once and that was it. And there's the toothbrush that I was using. Throughout the whole process, I was turkey basting all the SPS whenever I could. Otherwise, they'd be toast. Yeah, that's about it for the sump. So, thank you for watching. Here's some bonus content. Enjoy. Taste
Is that dead?
No, I think he's trying to kill it. That's not good. All the hermit crabs are upside down. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's got a taste for the crab. He's becoming a stone cold killer.
Are they supposed to do that?
Yeah, sometimes when they get bigger, they start eating the crabs and the snails and the shrimp.
What is this?
That's a snail that went clean glass. Let's go back to the hermit crabs.
Babe, don't put this on your channel, okay? God, I can't even just have a conversation.
Bonus content, babe. Bonus content. Oh. Oh, man, he just murdered that guy. Well, looks like we can't have any more hermit crabs in here.